Wish I had tons of money.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Price Check, episode 19. Now, there's a strange sense of deja vu. My name is Octavian, and I'm going to be price checking some gear for you today. Now, for those of you who are unaware as to how this series works, I'm going to be taking a full stash tab worth of unidentified rare gear here, and some of it blue, I suppose, the jewels and whatnot, but a full stash tab worth of unidentified, potentially valuable items, going through them, seeing if they've got value, and explaining the reasoning behind the value that certain things might have, or might not. I also like to point out things that specifically are really, really bad, because we can learn as much from failures as we can from successes, more even. As we've got no movement speed on these boots, and there's a failure to start her off. Bad life and bad resistances as well, really nothing to speak of there. The ES is decent, paired with strength, that is something you want, and even a little bit of mana for Mind Over Matter build, but the all-res roll is very low, and really this ring doesn't quite hit the mark, especially considering that Energy Shield is not in the meta right now. Lots of mana, well, not even, I was about to say, lots of mana between the implicit and the explicit, but the explicit is really low. I actually misread it, thought it was 81, not 18. I don't think it even reached 81. Anyways, yeah, not a very good ring. Decent amount of mana can go a long way, but it usually has to be paired with other good rolls. This does not have those. Though 10 to 16 cold damage to attacks is not necessarily bad. A little bit of ES and resistance. Perhaps in a different meta this could have seen play, but nowadays no. And it may still see play in some builds, but we're talking about what's valuable here. We're talking about what's going to sell easily, quickly, and for a decent price. And that is where the meta is most important. The meta may not always be right on what builds are the most powerful. There may be sleeper OP builds out there that people aren't playing, but those aren't the kind of things that get sales quickly. You want to sell to what people want, not necessarily to what's best for them, said someone with a destiny in a advertising career for a cigarette company, probably. That sounded oddly ominous. Life roll kind of low, mana, nothing really great going on there. Attack speed is decent. It's not an imbued wand though, which is where I'd usually look for attack speed or flat LE rolls. The crit chance is quite high, which is good, but again, no flat LE rolls. The flat fizz is terrible. The attack speed is okay, but there's no other crit stuff going on. It does not have the complete package, just a part of it. And neither does that ring. We are missing life or resistances. And while this has resistance and wed, the wed is low, the resistance is negligible, the life is non-existent. The flash charges roll is good. Like, this has a bunch of frosting but no cake. You know, it's got the flash charges roll, it's got the wed roll, those are both good, but you need a solid batter made of life and resistances before you can have a decent belt. 13 to 22 fizz is nice, as is a resistance, but once again we are missing that ever-important batter. Some life, some move speed. Maybe on day 1 or 2 of the league this could sell for a few chaos, but it's a stretch at any point past that. Local crit chance, again putting it at a decent crit chance of 9.5, but no flat fizz, nothing like that, no flat alley. We're not going to be able to sell that. And once again, we're missing our life roll. Crit multi attacks with one-handed melee weapons. That's worth regaling in my opinion. Crit multi is fairly valuable on jewels. This one is not. Meh life, meh resistances. Same there. Well, actually a decent life total between the strength and the life rolls, but nothing else to speak of. Life alone, just like resistances alone, does not a belt make. A good belt, at least. And that's certainly not a good belt either. We are missing out on life and resistances. You'll hear me say that a lot. That's certainly not worth a regal. A good amount of resistance is actually a very well-rounded collection, but sadly missing anything else to draw my attention. Decent stats as we head over to this ring, which has quite a good amount of life, actually, between the life and the strength, but not really much else great. Again, another example of an item that might sell on the first few days, but is a real stretch to try and sell at any other point. A lot of mana for Mind Over Matter build, some flat fizz and strength, could be useful. One good resistance and some ES. I'm not sure what build would actually want that, but it's not necessarily a bad combination of stats. We'll put it up for a few chaos. It's certainly not in meta by any means, but there are still people out there looking to buy off meta items as we weave our way through a few more belts here, both of which have a lack of one important stat or the other, be it life or resistance. And we're missing both of those on this. 20 life, nope, nothing doing. And 20% wet is nice, but Not great, and this is sadly missing movement speed that could have been quite good, actually, had it had those or that roll, that movement speed roll. Oh well.
Fate will find you.
Well, let's toss the money in its box. This will go up for, I'll say, 3 chaos to start here. It's rather out of meta, and even for someone who does want those rolls, some of them are kind of low, so hence the 3 chaos price tag. And Regal, ahoy. Oh! That is perfect. That is perfect. Okay, Cataclysm Flame, you've lit a flame in my heart. That is a very nice jewel, and we're going to be price checking that bad boy at the end, along with this other stuff here. Now, that is a resounding success in the first half of the stash. Good to see, good to see. And let's see if the second half is anything interesting for me. Oops.
Hello.
Hello. Navali's so friendly. The reason I have Navali right next to my device, by the way, is so I can sell and get prophecies from the same vendor, which is rather convenient. Alright, some attack speed, but not much, and everything else points towards spells. This is an indecisive wand, and as such is not very useful. Crit strike chance for spells, but quite low. Yeah, goodbye. And no life, mediocre resistances and damage rolls. Mediocre life, no resistance or damage rolls, and no life. 75 life, a meh stat, flat fizz, some resistance implicit. Another example of an item that could maybe sell in the first few days and is long past its prime now, this late into the league. Charges gained in life and resist, but the life is too low to save the rest of those stats. Not very synergistic. Percent max mana has become slightly more valuable with the advent of more Mind Over Matter builds, but not supremely. That's a prefix, so if we were to augment this, the best we could hope for is a crit multi-roll, and then maybe we could regal that, which we just had success with. That doesn't happen too often, but what the hell. We'll give it an aug. The reason why I mention it's a prefix is because life is also a prefix, and as we discovered earlier, life is what I'm shooting for. That's why that other jewel was so perfect. So I can't aug into life on this because the prefix slot is already taken up, and a magic item, a blue item, can only have 1 prefix and 1 suffix. Plus 5 life, goodbye. 87 life, hello. 16 all res, 15 cold res, some stats and life. Not particularly exceptional, no damage to speak of, but not a bad amulet. 16 all res and 87 life on a stat base, that alone will do wonders. You could throw annulls at this. You could throw an annul at that. Get rid of the mana or the ES, you have a lot more room to craft on. You'd open up a prefix. It has an open suffix, but opening a prefix would give way to a lot of damage rolls that you could craft onto it. I'm going to do that. We're going to annul this. It can sell without having to annul it, but I think it can be improved, and we're going to throw an annulment at that. Oh, going too quickly, sorry. Percent max ES, not necessarily bad. Actually, the ES roll that you're looking for, but the flat ES is kind of low, and the resistance are okay. It's on a stat base as well. I don't think it'll quite cut it. 73 mana, I wish you were live. But the rest of the ring wasn't very good anyway, so. The lowest possible cold damage to spells roll. Goodbye. Cast speed, no other spell mods. The odd assortment, and not really worthwhile. No life, no resistances, no dice. Kind of wish that mana roll had been higher and also a life roll. I like life rolls. They help sell things. Cast speed's good on a ring. It's kind of a rarer roll. It doesn't come up too often, so it can be quite valuable if you find it with the right collection of stats, but no. 13 life, too low. No life, also too low. 10% movement speed. 24, a lot of stats. A lot of stats. 47 ES, a lot of stats. And some crit. No resistances. No dice. Close, though. Crit multi, spell damage. Those are good rolls to see, but spell damage is quite low. Nope, nope. There we go. Belt trying to escape the vendor blender. Caught it in time, though. Alright, so we're going to aug and put that away because it disappointed us horribly. And what we're aiming to get rid of here is a 2 and 5 shot, the mana or the ES. I'd also be okay with getting rid of the cold res. That wouldn't be a bad thing. So 2 and 5 is the best, but even like 3 out of 5. Let's see. Oh, Well, that ended up nicely. What did we keep out of those two? We could also try to annul off the ES, but it's not that big a deal. Basically, we just wanted to open up a prefix so that we could then craft anything onto this amulet. So it can get crit chance, it can get flat damage, you can get basically whatever whoever buys this wants it to have, which does add quite a bit of value. Sometimes items are increased in value by what they don't have, because now this has a lot more flexibility. You know, it's got life, decent resistances, and stats, and it's a sort of a blank canvas for whoever wants to buy this. If they want more crit chance, they can throw that on there. If they want more resistances, they can throw that on there. They can do whatever they want. So that's quite a nice amulet at this point, and I'm going to start it at 30 chaos. That's a T1 life roll. Should I start it higher? We're going to price check that at the end of the episode. I'm not certain on that initial instinct, and I would like to give that a more in-depth look. Now, let's look through the rest of this gear here.
Welcome.
What have we got? Nothing too good. Alright, so on this, on an unset ring, you're looking for +2 or +3 to socketed gems, best case scenario. Other than that, same rolls you're looking for other rings. But unset rings do have a very rare roll where they can roll +2 socketed gems, and getting +2 or 3 makes the ring much more lenient for its other rolls, because that's such an uncommon roll, and so you can then sort of afford to have worse rolls otherwise because of how valuable that one particular roll is. 20 movement speed, but nothing else to back it up. 2 resistances, nothing else to back those up. No life, and no high ES. Fall of Oriath is the best ES base. Not a lot of people looking for these anymore with ES out of the meta, but some people still are. Cast speed is something you want to see on a breach ring. It's nice to have doubled, but the stats aren't great. That is a horrible, horrible belt. Okay, goodbye. No life, no resistances, nothing really to speak of. Some decent pile of resistances and lightning damage to attacks roll, but no life to back it up. Nothing doing there. And goodbye. Alright, well, we had a few interesting finds this time around. So, where did I put them? There. We are going to transition over to a PoE trade window, if OBS will cooperate with me. There we go. And the first item we will be looking up is that jewel that we got earlier. So 12% global crit multi, just generic crit multi, 7% life. Those two stats alone, perfect. That is an awesome jewel. That is the pièce de résistance of jewels. But then some attack speed with one-handed melee weapons, which is actually really generic too, if you think about it, because that works for a wander, or it works for a spellcaster that isn't even using the melee weapon for damage, but just wants the attack speed to be able to shield charge around faster, you know, like somebody using a crit dagger in some sort of, I don't know, any build that uses crit multi in life. That's the beauty of this jewel. That's why it's so good. It's so generic. It can fit into so many situations. So, what we're going to do, actually we're going to search for maximum life here, yeah, just a little more specific. There's a lot of things with life on them. So if you just search life, you're going to be scrolling through a bunch of different affixes. Global critical multiplier? I don't really need to specify a roll. We do want specifically 7% there, though. And attack speed. Well, you know what we're going to do? Actually, we're gonna do a really specific search to start off with. One hit. We're going to do a very specific search. I do not suggest this usually for jewels, but I'm actually curious to see if there's another jewel with our same rolls. There are 2 of them online. Let's check offline as well. As you can see, we've got some pretty hefty price tags to deal with here, which is nice for us. 12 results, starting at 1x, going up to 70 chaos, which is actually less than an x right now. PoE trade isn't always updated. So it's good to have that value in your mind and don't necessarily trust PoE trade implicitly. This one is basically our jewel. No, our attack speed roll is higher. What's our attack speed roll? 6 attack speed, 12 multi, 7 life. So ours is slightly better. This is our jewel, but then it has damage and poison, which is not going to be too useful for too many people. Also hasn't been online for 3 weeks. Or rather, hasn't sold in 3 weeks. This got listed yesterday at 2x. And it's worse than ours. So I'm thinking we start the jewel at 2x, because I think people who have them up in like 6 and 7 either have better rolls than us. So an all-res roll, that's kind of nice actually. accuracy. I don't see why this is at 4. Good reason it hasn't sold in 4 week, in a week. And this is overshooting, even with an all attributes roll. This is our jewel, actually, but plus all attributes. This is definitely overshooting. So I'm going to start it at, it'll actually overshoot the market a little bit. I'll start it at 3x. That was worth a regal. Alright, let's look at the next one. And I'll transition back in game so I can show you guys. We'll just do, well, we found some pretty decent stuff and I didn't expect that. But first, what I wanted to do is I had set aside 2 belts here that were both half decent, just life and resistances. But on bad bases, and the belt market is really fierce right now. There's a lot of competition. So what I was going to do is just vol these and hope to get plus 1 endurance charge, because I know some people like seeing vol orbs be clicked on things. So let's see. Nope. And nope, that was boring. And I think corrupted, neither of these are worth very much. I mean, maybe that still. That's maybe worth a few chaos still, even corrupted. But that was fun. And now, let's take a look at this amulet that we found. And we'll save that one for another episode, just so that the episode doesn't go over long. So, refresh our memory on this. We have 87 life, 16 all res, 15 call res on a stat base. It's pretty dang basic, but that life roll is sky high. That's about as high as life goes on an amulet, not accounting for strength. But this even has some strength, so that's, what, 98 life? Yeah, 98 life, which is very, very, very high for an amulet. And then you've got the perfect resistance roll. If you're just going to have 1 or 2 of them, you want an all res roll in there. It's the most versatile. And then a little bit of extra cold res for the road, so why not? It's cold out there. Let's transition back over to our PoE trade window. And reset a search here. Amulets. With life. Go with maximum life of 85, so that'll factor in strength rolls as well, and that sort of thing. And resistance. Pseudo-total elemental resistance. 16 all res is 30 plus 18, 48 plus 15 is 50, 63. So let's put in 60 all res. And then it is on a stat base. We'll just kind of manually scroll through, take that into account. We might find quite a lot of amulets this way. Let's see what comes up. 464 results. Yeah, that's a bit too many. All right. We're actually going to do an explicit life roll instead. And still do 80-ish. See what we find here. About the same number. Going to need to narrow this down somehow, which is kind of difficult to do because it is flexible. The value in this amulet isn't in the rolls that it has, but in the rolls that it doesn't. So you could craft like crit chance onto this or something. So you could do a very exhaustive and lengthy search where you search a bunch of different rolls that it could potentially have, but we're just going to look at some of the more potentially valuable ones. So if we put in... Why am I so bad at typing today? Crit strike chance. Let me just throw that on. 37 results. And we're looking at 20 chaos, 24 chaos, 25. So if we were to craft some crit strike onto this, then we might have 20-something chaos, 30-something chaos value on our hands. What if we were to craft on, say, I'm thinking crit strike chance is the most valuable, but let me look at what other things we have as options. We do more resistances, but I think it's well-rounded enough in that. You can get some stats as well. This is why I kind of wanted to leave it open so that whoever buys it can make that decision, but it may not show up in as many searches, so I think we're going to go for crit strike chance. Costs 2 chaos to do, and it shoots the value of our item up to being about 30 chaos or so, it seems. If we look at this 25C, this has the flat cold, but this one then doesn't have the flat cold. It's a little bit more bricked up. You can't craft anything onto this. You can't change it. It's 30C, but for 6 days. So I think 25C is a fairly reasonable point to price it at if we craft on that crit chance. 26% is our roll. And with that, that's going to be the end of the episode today. So thank you to everybody who tuned in. I hope you enjoyed. Price Check 20 is just around the corner, so if you are enjoying this series, then you can always follow the YouTube channel to keep up to date with it. But if you're enjoying my content in general, there's plenty more content outside of the Price Check series. Of course, I do a lot of other YouTube content, but on top of that, I also stream every single night. So if you really like hearing my voice, you can hear it for 8 hours straight every day. Why would you want that? If you do, though, you can. All you have to do is follow the link in the description. It'll lead you straight to my Twitch channel. Thank you for watching, everybody, and I hope to see you in the next one.